Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today's going to be pretty good. Got some stuff I want to cut out here in the shop. I'm going to be working with some petrified wood. And well, a friend of mine recently purchased a slab saw. Similar to mine, same size, 14-inch slab saw. And I thought we could cut some petrified wood today. I'll share with you some of my thoughts on owning a slab saw. Share with you kind of some of the tips and tricks, stuff that I've learned over the years and, geez, thousands of cuts on it. So yeah, we'll hop right into it. Let's head over to the bench real quick. We're going to look at some of the petrified wood, and then we'll start cutting. Here are the 4 pieces of wood that we're going to be cutting today. We're going to be making some stand-ups out of them. This is the first piece. This came from Hollywood Ranch down there in, I guess you could call that Central Oregon. The southern end of the Willamette Valley in Oregon. There is a feed dig called Hollywood Ranch. I believe the name has changed now. The back when we went there, it was called Hollywood Ranch. This piece of wood right here, I have no clue about. This was given to me by my mother to cut, and I'm going to be making it a stand-up. This is a piece that I believe Sarah found. I don't recall it. She found this on the Yellowstone River out in Montana. We'll be cutting that off. And then finally, out at Saddle Mountain in central Washington, this kind of big agatized piece right here. Should be kind of fun. So the plan is to make stand-ups, right? So we are going to cut the bottom off of this. So it can stand up like that. And that one can stand up like that. And then this guy can stand up like that. And we can have 3 different localities represented in a very tight little space on a shelf. So that's the plan with those. This one, man, that has some great cellular replacement. You can really see the bands there. And I'm thinking this end is kind of the ugly end. So I'm going to cut it so it can stand up. And then we'll be giving that back to her. And you can kind of see about the line there. So this is my 14-inch slab saw. And I think we can kind of go over some of the anatomy of it real quick. And we'll talk a little bit more once there's a rock in place, but we have a carriage which moves along those 2 rails, slides that direction. We have a vise here, and that vise clamps the rock in that kind of orientation. We have a little lever right there, and that moves the vise side to side on the carriage. That green lever right there engages the feed screw. We have a pulley there, and a little tiny gear motor down here. We have this little gear motor, and that slowly feeds the rock into the blade as it turns. My saw feeds at a rate of 1 inch of travel every 7 minutes. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. And then I set up a chain, and that's the auto cutoff. So once the rock is cut, we got to get all of the oil off of it, and that's it goes in the kitty litter. So down here we have some cat litter. The rock goes in it, and I let it sit there for, who knows how long, and it pulls all of the oil off of the rock. So a couple of things. Anytime I'm working with the saw, which is an oil saw, gloves and an apron is nice. You will eventually get oil on yourself. I also only open my saw when it's unplugged. The possibility of hitting the switch, the blade spinning, and leaving a trail of oil up you is definitely not fun. So you can see here the carriage sliding. Okay. So we got to figure out how we want to cut this. I'll probably cut it in this orientation, just like that. Now, this rock, being kind of square and blocky, makes it very conducive to this style of vise, which there's other styles. And you might have to do some shimming and some other things to get it just how you would want it. I think I'm going to probably cut it right about there. So that's kind of clamped in. So now I'm going to back the vise out so that we can clear the blade, push the rock over, well, I guess push it in the direction of travel, and set up my stop. Because we got to have it set so that it cuts the last piece. I think we're good there. Move it back. I think that's going to be about the right height to be able to cut that off. Now I move the whole carriage assembly in and touch the blade. Now I'm looking for any type of deflection in the blade in this direction. Now, example, if you were to cut on a rounded rock or a rounded surface, the blade might want to deflect and it can trash your blade. So really just kind of pushing in, and I think we're good there, just like that. And give it an extra couple of turns. Make sure this thing's really tight. You do not want your rock coming loose. So I have a little lever here which locks everything in place. We're good. Come in, touch, back off about 1/16 of an inch so that the blade can start free spinning, and then the saw will come into contact. You don't want to start the saw with the rock in contact with the blade. This is kind of what that looks like from that angle. That's what's going to get cut off. So right now you can't really hear the cutting at all, but in a moment you will be able to. The tone will change, okay? We just got contact with the rock right there. So the saw finished cutting about 30 seconds ago. I went and unplugged it. I'm going to do something you should never do with your oil saw, which is open it up right away. All the oil becomes a vapor mist, and well, maybe you can see that. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, it becomes a vapor mist, and you get all this drips coming down. So what you want to do is leave your saw closed, okay, and let it drip for about 5 minutes or so before you open it and look at your cut. Been about 5 minutes since the saw stopped. Here is our end cut. That's neat. That's neat. I don't want to drip oil all over the place, but check that out. Not bad. So throw that down there in the kitty litter. Yeah. And we'll open this up and we'll get ready for the next rock. One thing with these, you want to hold this up and not let it drop down because it'll splash oil out all over the place. So the oil in this saw is an oil designed for cutting rocks. It is a very thin, so what? Thin would be a low viscosity mineral oil. Do not use diesel. Don't put water in your slab saw. Don't put farm laxative grade mineral oil, that really thick mineral oil. Don't put that in your saw. Just buy the good stuff. You know, it lasts a very, very long time. I change oil in my saw about once a year. You might have to change it more often, depending on how much you cut. And you can filter it, right? So you can filter out all the sediment, and you can kind of reuse a decent little portion, maybe like 80% of the oil. And yeah, you know, I mean, you have this expensive saw, whether it be used or new. Don't do something stupid. Don't burn down your shop. Yeah, that. All right, so I think I'm all set up here almost. I do have some cool little tricks for cutting. Generally speaking, you don't want to walk away from your saw and leave it unattended. And I got some fun stories about that, and I found a solution that actually means that you can walk away from your saw and not really experience any problems. Yeah, so the saw has been sitting for about 5 minutes to let all the oil settle out. You don't want to walk away from the saw. So if you are going to walk away from the saw for an extended period of time, there's 2 things that you're going to probably want to have. Well, it's still a little vapor in there. 2 things that you're going to want to have, and that's going to be a baby monitor and a cutoff. So there are 120 volt rated cutoffs. So it's like a little remote, and they're primarily meant for central air shop vacuum dust collection systems, so that you can turn it on and off. Well, as you start to cut on these saws, you will learn the type of tone that your saw makes, and when things, don't go well. Once when I was cutting, I actually had a slab fall off and wedge itself between the body of the saw and the blade, and actually seized the blade from moving. So having the baby monitor actually saved the motor. So very well worth it. So here, this stuff from Hollywood Ranch, looking quite well. I do think I need to get this all nice and clean though. But yeah, I mean, those are definitely 2 things that can make it really nice. Because man, yeah, walking away from your saw could mean that you come back to a stalled motor, which a motor, $175 at least. So baby monitor, not $175. But yeah, that'll at the very least make a very cool stand-up. So let me show you something here. I have the piece from the Yellowstone River clamped in the saw. However, it didn't want to fit right, and my top portion of my vise was very crooked. So what I did was, let's see if I can get you down here and you can see it. Right there, right in the middle of your screen there, you can see I have a wooden wedge. You can see the wooden wedge that is adding additional support to the vise and kind of really wedging the rock in place. So yeah, we should be good here. I'm all set up. I have this one to cut and the other one, and we'll kind of talk about wedges with that one as well a little bit. This one is also going to be a little difficult because I want it to stand like that, so you can kind of see where the cut needs to take place. I'm going to cut it right about there and cut that bottom off for our stand-up. However, due to the shape of it, it's kind of awkward. So I'm going to probably clamp it over here with a wood wedge in that space and cut that off. So you can kind of see here, I let the rock fully go past the edge of the blade. One thing that you might be tempted to do is you'll hear the rock drop off and stop the saw, and there'll be a little nub attached to the rock that you then either have to try to turn the saw back on, which you probably shouldn't do that, because it'll create a different wear pattern on the surface sometimes, or you're taking it over to the trim saw. So it's kind of a cool looking piece right there. So I have a wooden wedge. The vise is flat, and you can kind of see there the wooden wedge. Everything is good. I think this will be a nice cut in here. And we can have our 4 cuts to look at. It's the next day, and of course, it's raining. But these are all done, and I'm probably going to put these on a shelf just kind of like that, like the 3 of them, and be able to have the different localities represented. I like that. Let's look at them. They're pretty good. So here's this piece that was actually from my mother, and these have been sitting in the cat litter overnight so that everything is nice and oil-free, which is what you want. And I got this wet just a little bit. This is very dark. It's just straight up black, right? So it doesn't really want to show super well, but you can kind of see we have the core of the tree was right there, and you can count the years here if you wanted. Very neat piece. I like it. I don't know anything about it, where it's from or anything, but now it can just sit on a shelf. And then the piece from Hollywood Ranch, Old Hollywood Ranch. You can see the grain in that. Very, not really pronounced, but we do have right there some little seams of quartz crystal, which is pretty cool. It's a fun piece. It looks really, really, well, like wood. And then from the Yellowstone River. So that's the orientation of it. This would be like towards the inside of the tree. But you can kind of see we have some little pockets of agate there. Very cool. Better than what I thought it was going to be, actually. You know, I've seen a lot of stuff cut wood from the Yellowstone. Sometimes it's just black, right? Like there's no real good definition in it whatsoever. So happy with that. And then finally, this kind of big, weird, funky piece from Saddle Mountain, and you can look at it right there. This piece actually probably, I would say, looks the best. Look at that. That looks great. I might have to polish these up. At some point, when I have some more shelves for some of my rock, I might make these laydowns. So, you know, lay them flat, and I'll polish this up, because that looks good. I like that. So, yeah, there we go. I hope you liked this. I hope you enjoyed seeing me cut this petrified wood, and perhaps you learned something about slab saws. If you did, throw me a thumbs up. Drop a subscribe if you like to see more content just like this. I have hundreds and hundreds of other videos, and I will catch you on the next one.